Hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode, where we dive into something that could completely change the way you work as an engineer. And no, it's not a new algorithm or a fancy tool, it's all about communication.
That's right. We're talking about effective communication. You might be thinking, but I'm an engineer. Why do I need to worry about communication? Well, we're here to tell you it's one of the most crucial skills you can develop if you want to succeed, whether you're just starting out or already climbing the career ladder.
Exactly. Think about this: engineers with strong communication skills are 30% more likely to move into leadership roles. Today, we'll show you how mastering communication can take you beyond just technical expertise and help you stand out.
Stay tuned, because by the end of this episode, you'll have practical tools and strategies to start applying in your everyday work, making sure your ideas are not just heard, but understood and appreciated.
All right, so let's jump into the first issue at hand. Why do so many engineers struggle with communication? It's not just about poor speaking skills, it's about being able to translate complex, technical ideas into simple language that non-engineers can grasp.
Yeah, and it's a bigger issue than people think. A Harvard Business Review study showed that 85% of engineering projects that faced delays cited poor communication as a major factor. Imagine that. It's not always the technical challenges that hold us back, it's miscommunication.
Exactly. Engineers are trained to focus on precision and technical accuracy, which is great for solving problems, but not so great when you're trying to explain those solutions to a client or a project manager who doesn't speak your technical language.
And that's where the disconnect happens. A lot of projects stall because we can't explain why our design choices are important in terms the client or stakeholders understand. They're focused on cost or deadlines, not the long-term benefits of our design decisions.
To illustrate that, there was a major infrastructure project in Europe that was delayed by almost a year, not because of technical failures, but because engineers failed to communicate the importance of certain materials to local officials. Millions were lost, just because the technical value wasn't explained clearly enough.
So why is it so important to fix this? Well, for one, better communication leads to more successful projects. In fact, companies that prioritize communication see a 25% higher project success rate.
That's huge. But beyond the project level, communication is also critical for career growth. Engineers who can communicate effectively are the ones who get noticed, promoted, and placed in leadership roles.
Absolutely. Effective communication also fosters collaboration, which is essential in a field like engineering where you often work with cross-functional teams. A study by the Project Management Institute found that 56% of projects failed due to miscommunication.
And let's not forget safety. Miscommunication in industries like construction or aerospace can have life or death consequences. We all know about the Challenger space shuttle disaster, which was partially caused by communication failures between engineers and decision-makers about safety concerns.
Exactly. So the stakes are high. It's not just about getting the job done, it's about doing it safely, on time, and within budget. If you can't communicate well, none of that happens.
You know, one of the most interesting aspects of communication in engineering is how much it directly affects problem solving. We've discussed how essential it is to explain technical concepts. But communication actually plays an even bigger role when it comes to collaborating across teams to solve challenges, whether you're in the design phase or deep in a project's execution.
Absolutely. In fact, a McKinsey study showed that teams with strong communication are 25% more productive and experience significantly fewer project delays. And when you think about it, a lot of those delays happen not because of technical issues, but because people aren't communicating well.
Exactly. I remember hearing about the Heathrow Terminal 5 project in London. Technically, everything was in place, the design was groundbreaking, and they had some of the best engineers in the world working on it. But when it came to opening day, the terminal was a disaster. Baggage systems failed, thousands of flights were delayed, and the costs spiraled out of control. The reason? A breakdown in communication between teams, particularly between the engineering and operations departments.
Right. The BBC reported that the failure to integrate the technical teams with the operational teams cost PS $250 million in delays and lost revenue. This wasn't a technical failure. It was a communication failure. If the engineers had been able to clearly communicate how the systems would operate on a day-to-day basis, these problems could have been avoided.
That's a perfect example. And it goes to show that communication is not just about explaining technical details, it's about aligning every team's priorities and making sure that all stakeholders, technical or not, are on the same page.
And we see that across industries. For example, a Project Management Institute PMI study found that 56% of project failures are directly attributed to miscommunication. It's staggering when you think about it. Over half of project failures could be avoided with better communication.
And that's why engineers who can bridge that gap, who can speak both the technical language and the business language, are invaluable. They become the problem solvers, the people who can prevent these delays and failures from happening in the first place.
Exactly. Engineers who master communication aren't just seen as technical experts anymore, they're viewed as leaders, the go-to people when projects are at risk. And that's how you position yourself for career advancement. You're not just solving problems in your own domain. You're driving the entire project toward success.
All right, now let's talk solutions. What can engineers do to improve their communication skills? The good news is, this is a skill you can learn and hone just like any other.
One of the first strategies is active listening. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. A study found that active listening can increase comprehension by up to 40%. The key is to listen to understand, not just to respond.
Right, and when you're in a meeting, don't just wait for your turn to speak. Make sure you're really absorbing what the other person is saying. Reflect back what you've heard to confirm understanding.
Next up, we have the Feynman technique. Named after physicist Richard Feynman, this technique suggests that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough.
It's a great tool. When you simplify complex concepts, you make sure you understand them deeply, and it helps others, especially non-technical people, grasp your ideas. Harvard Business School found that simplifying concepts improves understanding by 30%.
Another solution is to use visual aids. Studies show that people retain 65% of information when visuals are used, compared to only 10% when delivered verbally. So using charts, graphs, and diagrams can make your ideas clearer and more memorable.
Role-playing is another great tool. It helps you practice explaining your ideas to non-technical people. Many companies like Google use this in peer feedback sessions to refine communication strategies.
Finally, don't forget about nonverbal communication. 70% of communication is nonverbal, so make sure your body language, eye contact, posture, gestures reinforces your message.
As we wrap up, remember, communication is just as important as your technical expertise. It's not something to overlook, it's something to master.
Absolutely. This podcast is part of a larger initiative to help engineers like you develop the soft skills that will make you stand out in your career. We want to provide you with tools, strategies, and real-world examples to help you succeed not just in the lab, but in every meeting, presentation, and project.
So take what you've learned today and start practicing these communication strategies. And share this episode with your colleagues, anyone who you think could benefit from becoming a more effective communicator.
Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. Next time, we'll be talking about leadership for engineers, a skill that's equally as important as communication.
Thanks for joining us. Keep honing those communication skills, and we'll see you in the next episode.